Hey, welcome to the season finale of season 1 of the Icarus Idea. Today's guest is Timo Lejeune from Lumus Instruments, who takes us all the way from their first client to the high-tech, insane light experiences that they design nowadays. Along the way, some Canadian coffee shops and self-sticking cables will be discussed. But like any goodbye, let's just make it quick and let's get on with it. Please enjoy the 10th episode of the Icarus Idea. Welcome to the 10th episode of the Icarus Idea. Today you're listening to a very special episode of the Icarus Idea for 3 reasons. First of all, we have an epic guest who will enter the stage right after this. But apart from that, this is the final episode of the Icarus Idea Season 1. We had an amazing season so far. Thanks for all the listeners. A little bit of a spoiler, there might be a second season, so keep your eye out for that. And the third and final reason why this is a special episode is, as you might have seen on our Instagram, you were able to choose what questions we are going to ask Timo, our guest today. As always, my name is Joris, and of course there is Jean.
Hello everyone. I hope that you're all enjoying your holidays. If not, you're not alone. I'm still working on my bachelor thesis. Almost done though. Yeah, as Joris already said, the listeners have had a huge influence on the podcast for today. If you're following our Instagram account, you've probably seen some of our posts where you were able to send questions for our guest for today. For the listeners who are not following our account, I will shortly introduce our guest. Our guest has graduated in industrial design in Eindhoven. He, together with Julius Oosting, started Lumus Instruments, which is a creative lighting studio set out to design products that enable and inspire the creation of sustainable art. They have already done projects for Mysteryland, Amsterdam Dance Event, and Into the Woods, even internationally at the Toronto Light Festival. Welcome, Timo Lejeune.
Thank you.
How are you doing today, Timo?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty fine. We had a really good weekend last weekend in Amsterdam with the opening of a new show. We got great responses, and now for the last couple of days, just a little bit chilling out. And I'm moving to Amsterdam later this weekend, so preparing for that a little bit, but just taking it easy and looking forward to the next shows and all of that.
Oh, cool.
All right, let's first get into the usual punch of the month. We asked you about your most, let's say, epic or stupid or weird festival experience, since, of course, you're, let's say, a master of festivals. What have you decided upon in these final few seconds?
In these final few seconds, well, I think I have to turn to Toronto for that, just because when you talk about festivals, and we all know like the Dutch festivals, like Wildeburg and Into the Woods, which I love, or Mysteryland, which I love, but then when you go to Toronto and you see how it's just a totally different place. So the second time when we went to Toronto, there was this evening where we were picked up at our hotel by a guy that we met the year before, and he took us in his Tesla Model X to this Thai restaurant, and then after that we went to the coffee shop to taste some Canadian weed. He wanted to impress me with the Canadian weed.
Oh wow!
So, and I was a little bit like, okay, I'm not sure how this is going to be, because last year I had some weed from this guy and it was terrible. So now I was like, okay, try to impress me, and yeah, we just got really stoned and back into the Tesla Model X and drove around Toronto to this club, and that was like the weirdest club experience ever, because everybody was, everybody here in the Netherlands in clubs, they're all really cool and a little bit, chill, and over there it was just like everybody was screaming and dancing like bam bam bam, and yeah, it's just totally fun to see, especially when you're like high as a kite. So that was pretty fun.
Yeah. Wow, it sounds amazing. Amazing experience.
Yeah, it was good because it's just so different.
Yeah.
Sean, you want to try to top that with your punch of the month?
Yeah. My puntje might be of great value for you, the listener, since most of our listeners are students. You have probably encountered the issue of having a turf list or a streeplijst in Dutch. And Dutch students' houses have the habit of having a common good in beer. So every time you drink a beer, you must turf it on a paper list or something like that. However, this gets forgotten a lot of times, or the turfing pen doesn't work or something like that. Turf, a company, came up with a solution. They came up with a tablet where you just have to push a button and the tablet will note that you are going to drink a beer. They also added in some extra features, such as an online dinner list and an aid list. And you can get the tablet for free, actually, and it will be glued to your wall. You pay with your Zol, since that advertising companies sponsor the tablet. And my student house is pretty hyped about it because it gets forgotten a lot of times, and some people pay a lot for beers and some people don't or never. So this might be of great value for you, the listeners. And it's now in Enschede. It was already in Delft and in Eindhoven, Rotterdam, Amsterdam. I'm not sure. It will be in Groningen soon, but that's the online dinner list. What do you think about it?
Well, is it a tablet that you just install to your house, or does it go from house to house, or is it in one specific spot? Where can you get it?
It's just a normal tablet. I don't know which tablet they use, but they printed a 3D thing around it, and the only program that runs on the tablet is the turflijst. So it doesn't have any extra features, and they will just come to your house and glue it with, I don't know, Bison kit or something like that to the wall, and you can't get it off.
If there's a business model, it's okay, I guess.
Yeah, the revenue stream is thus
like fairness is always better. So if everybody pays a fair amount to the beer, then we're making progress, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like a bit of wasting an entire tablet on just a stabilized. It's a bit. We get to better uses, I think, right?
A lot of tablets just gets thrown away, so
fair enough.
From that perspective, if they use recycled tablets, that would be good.
Yeah. No to turf. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Shall I hit you with my puntje then?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I found something, it wasn't really fine. I was fed something by my LinkedIn feed. I met a designer, I think about two years ago, from Singapore, and his name is Chunbeng Quentin Kwek. As I said, he's from Singapore, and how do you say I had the pleasure of meeting him? Oh no, well there you go. I had the pleasure of meeting him once, and when he came in, we met at some hotel, and when he came in, he was just like this little block of energy. He was just so excited. He was telling me about what he was working on then, and actually what he was working on back then 2 years ago has now come out, and it's called Bond Cable. And it's sold as a self-bonding cable. So I think this might actually maybe also be of value to the listener, but also, Timo, I think to you, because, well, I think in your lighting systems, there's a shit ton of cables, I presume.
Yep, there is.
And the idea of the bond cable is that it's a flat cable, but it has these ridges. So what you can do is you wind up the cable, you coil it, and then you squeeze it, and then the cable stays together. So
it just hardens in a way or something.
Yeah, it's the ridges, they grasp into each other, and then the cable stays together. It's like finally we have found the solution for messy cables.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Send it to me. Where can I buy it?
There was a Kickstarter thing, but that has ended. Right now they actually managed to get 500% of their goal, which I think that's an insane amount of money, an insane amount of support.
Yeah, that's a great response.
So I don't actually know the website, but I presume I Googled bond cable and it just gives a ton of results. So if you want one, go to bond cable on Google and you'll probably be able to find one.
Nice.
But now we've made promo for Turf. We have made promo for bond cable. We are not sponsored, but whatever. Let's get into the questions. Okay, Timo, we have got 7 questions today, all chosen and handpicked by our listeners. Well,
Wow.
the first question came from one of our listeners. He's called Marijn, and the question was, what is the sickest or most epic project that you've ever done? But given of what you just mentioned all the way in the beginning, I think it might be safe to say that it's the LoFi project you're doing right now in Amsterdam, right?
Yeah, I think considering that it all just like those audiovisual shows like Sync or Omnipresent or the most recent one, Contrarium, they're just the shows where everything that we do really comes together, like the show installation part, like the audio responsive technology and the custom light fixtures and everything. And yeah, last weekend was definitely the sickest of that type of installation show that we did to date, like by far. And the responses from the artists were also really good. And the difference is also finally we really got to control the entire environment in a way. So how everything was set up, how people were received in the location, and how all the couches were set up, and like how the whole room was just centered around this table where a couple of freaks would gather to make music and make light and just do 1 hour of crazy performance. And that just that just worked really well, because in the previous projects it was always, something that just didn't fit perfectly, and people it was really hard for people to focus their attention on what we were doing. And last time there was no problem. People just focused and were quiet, and yeah, they were so enthusiastic about it in the end. So that was really good. Also, especially in this time, to finally give something to people that they can be enthusiastic about. That's not on Netflix or something, So that's a really good feeling now. Yeah,
it sounds really cool, Timo. It sounds really amazing. But could you elaborate a bit more for the listener or about what you are making actually?
So what Contrarium is all about, and what these type of AV shows are all about, is about making a direct connection, like a technological, but also more metaphysical or a human connection between light artists and musicians. So now we know the standard setup of festivals is just you have a stage where a crowd is looking at, and there's a musician on that stage playing or making music. And then on the other side of the field, you have this place called the front of house, and that's where all the audio technicians and light technicians and everything reside. But in the future, it's logical to have like this more direct connection to the music. Like there's a lot of technical data that's coming out of music that is really useful to lighting operators or programming lighting and how the lighting responds to it. So what we are exploring is how we can get most of that data, or how we can receive all of that data in a really easy and handleable way, and convert it and route it to something that the light system understands and that we can use for controlling lights and making light effects. So there's a direct technical connection between what the musician is doing and what comes out of my system. And there's a part, so that's like the technical part, that's more like timing and progressions and textures and stuff like that. That's what you get out of the musical data. And then my part is still like getting the right colors at the right moment, making an emotional translation of the music and of the speed, so to say, of the music, and that putting that together in a custom light installation is just pure magic. and that's the concept that Contrarium is exploring.
Well, you call it magic, but I've seen the videos on your Instagram and I think Facebook as well. I think magic is about the right word, because it looks almost mesmerizing, to be honest.
Yeah, it just feels really natural. I think that's the part where people are also a little bit flabbergasted about, because, like, for example, on Thursday we had an artist coming over Ferro, and he didn't knew what we were doing. He wasn't really briefed about everything that we were doing, so he was a little bit like, okay, whatever, couple of light guys. And from the moment we plugged his modular synthesizer to the system and he started playing, like within 2 seconds, he was like, okay, this is something completely different. And he was like totally enthusiastic. Yeah. But you really have to see it to understand it and to get it, because I can tell you that it responds, and then you're like, you can make a picture, but it's never like the real deal. It's just different.
Yeah. I agree with Joris. Every time I see a video of yours, I just get goosebumps or something like that. It's amazing. Credits for that.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to hear.
Timo, this is where you are now, right? This is Contrarium. That's the last, let's say, light show that you've produced.
Yep.
Shall we just go back to the beginning first? Like, where did this all start?
Yeah, we can go back or we can go way back.
Okay. Well,
what would you like?
The first question that we was picked is, why did you study Ambient Intelligence, and what is it?
Well, I did a couple of projects on ambient intelligence or intelligence or technology in public spaces. You could also approach it a little bit like that. But when I moved from mechanical engineering to industrial design, I just wanted to do more with the human part of technology, so to say. So I was really focused on technology, but I wanted to know what is the connection exactly between technology and humans, and when is technology usable in a way that really serves us and serves nature and serves it correctly, so to say. So that's when I really enrolled a little bit in the playful interactions and in the interactive spaces or ambient intelligence direction of the study. And you, like, when you reflect it to light installations or festivals or stuff like that, there's a lot of ways in how you can see it as some kind of not really ambient, but an intelligent environment, so to say. It's an environment that's set up, that's staged for you to enjoy, or for you to interact with, or for you to socialize more. So it elicits like social interactions between people, and that's my kind of technology, or that's the corner that I'm really interested in. So I'm less interested in how can we make one product that you can like hold and that has this or that effect, and I'm more interested in how can we like integrate it within the spaces that we live in and live with. And that's also the combination with Julius, who is an architect. So it's really more about the spaces than the actual products within the spaces. And ambient intelligence, of course, when you look at the future, like all kinds of intelligence and microprocessors, like microprocessors will be as cheap as A4 paper right now in the distant future. And it will just be everywhere, you know, within every wall and with every ceiling and within every floor, there will be some kind of some form of, not per se intelligence, but a computational source integrated. And that's the idea, like, what do you want that kind of technology to do for the people who are in those spaces? And essentially, that's like the distant future of also what we are doing, like what we're doing now with the music. Like maybe within 20 years, musicians just walk into a club, they just plug their audio devices into something in the wall, or it's just all wireless and whatever, and they play, and the whole the whole space just starts to respond to it immediately. That's where you want to go to. So that's a little bit of the connection to what I went to do then and what I'm doing right now, and how you can give it a little bit of context or something.
Daniel.
Wow. That sounds really futuristic and a visionary look, by the way. It sounds really cool.
I have to admit, when I selected the tracks that I did in mechanical engineering and industrial design engineering, I did not have this, let's say, high-level visionary view of what I was going to do with it.
Yeah, they really focused on that, at least in my opinion, at industrial design. And that's also why I chose to study industrial design at Eindhoven, because they were really focused on, you really have to understand what you're doing and the long-term effects of what you're doing and how it's like interconnected with real-life scenarios or real-life companies or real-life things. So that's what I really like, and that's what I think is really important to think 10, 20 years into the future and just see, okay, where should we be then, and what's like the small step that we have to take right now into that direction.
Timo, after that you finished or graduated your studies, you worked on a team together with Julius. It was called Luminous, and you created a large-scale interactive light installation at Glow. Is Lumus Instruments a result of that project you did?
Yeah, literally grew out of that. It's like in beginning of 2016, Julius got together with a couple of other people from industrial design and built environment and started that project. And I first came in as some kind of advisor, and then I became project leader, and then it just all got out of hand a little bit. But one of the most important things that we decided that we wanted the project to be is not to be like this one-off light installation just for Glow and that's it, because we think it's just a waste of material and time to make something that is just shown off one time and then forever kept within a container or whatever. So we made something that we could use multiple times, or that you can use in multiple ways, multiple times, to keep it interesting a little bit and to keep it modular and exciting. So that enabled us eventually to, after Glow, to go to different festivals with it and show it around, and also to show like real life context that what people of the technical university can do, and how technology feels in a more artistic application or something. That was one of our goals, and to make this fusion of structure with intelligence, or not per se intelligence, but with computational power integrated, to give it this more lively aesthetics and feel. And that works really well. I mean, that together with the size of the project, because it's just a really big light installation when you compare it to other works around. So we got to do many more festivals like Lowlands, and then we went to Into the Woods, and then we went to Into the Woods at Amsterdam Dance Event, and that last year, the year next to that, we went to Toronto with it. So we got to learn from it what these people and what these festivals really were looking after, and that's when we started Lumus Instruments to make light installations that were really more focused on that type of question, or how do you that kind of
demand.
Demand, exactly. Yeah.
From the moment that you started Lumus itself, so the Lumus Instruments, what was your, let's say, first real client, and how did you get in touch with them?
I think the first client that felt most real probably was Extrema. Like we went to Into the Woods with Luminous, and then Into the Woods ADE with Luminous, and then Wildeburg with Luminous, but they just wanted Luminous and then in different types of configuration. But Extrema, which was in Belgium, it was Extrema Outdoor Belgium, and they really wanted a totally new concept. So we just went to the drawing table and we made a new design, which was with the Luminous tubes, but it wasn't a helix configuration, and it was totally different technology, like compared to what Luminous was running. So we just, that was I think the first that was with the Lumus Instruments team, so to say, together with Julius, that was not Luminous, essentially. Okay. And it was pretty difficult, I have to say. I mean, that's when we really got to make mistakes and stuff like that, and invest in new stuff and see what works and see what not works. And this whole process is still going on.
How is actually that collaboration with, let's say, Extrema or artists or festivals?
Well, overall, really good, because they really appreciate that you try to do something new or try to do something different, and they also always have understanding if some details or whatever don't really work out the way you expected. And most of them are really looking for long-term relationships and to really get a feel, like if they have the idea that you got a feel for their type of festival, that's usually what they're really interested in. If we went to go to Decibel or something, that's a type of festival where we just don't really have the same feel with compared to an Into the Woods or Wildeburg, for example. That's really what you have to focus on. You really have to focus on getting to the festivals or the clients that are right for you, that just give you the right feeling, and invest in that relationship with the people of that festival, and that gives you the most creative freedom, that gives you the most creative inspiration, and just works best generally.
I'm wondering, how did you? It's quite difficult, I think, to forge such a relationship, but it starts somewhere, right? Where did it start? Did you just get a call from the CEO of Extrema saying, "Hey, Timo, I saw your lights. Can you make one of those for us as well?"
No, so back when I was still living in Maastricht, we were organizing a lot of parties together with a couple of friends, and some of those friends or people that I knew from that period, they got to work in the festival industry. So I knew some people spread out in Eindhoven or Amsterdam or whatever. So, for example, the first time with Luminous at Lowlands was just simply looking up the email address of Lowlands and emailing Lowlands. That's what Julius did. And he did the same thing with Into the Woods. Like, okay, this is the email address of Into the Woods. Let's just email them. Hello, we have this thing. Do you want it? And then Extrema was a little bit more subtle. That was more like, okay, I know this guy. Can you link me to him? And then you got into a conversation or a meeting. And that's also why we got to propose something completely new, because that's when you look at festivals, that's just always what they want. They want something new. They don't want exactly the same that you had over there or that you had over there. And that's with music festivals, of course, but that's also pretty much with light festivals or any type of festival. When you got something new, that always has the preference.
I very much like the combination of just randomly throwing out emails to email@lowlands.com, but also doing that almost sneaky networking, like, hey, can you maybe hook me up with something, you know? I like that combo.
Joris, that sounds familiar.
That sounds very familiar. Where do we get our guests, Sean?
I don't know. Maybe LinkedIn.
And it's just asking people to connect you, because right now we have plenty of connections, and then we don't specifically know that person at that festival, but we do know some guy who does know him, so we just ask him, and that just works the best because he can give you a little introduction, and it gives them a little bit more of a safe feeling or something, that you're not that you're not some random guy who does some random custom stuff and it might work or it might not work, you know.
Yeah, makes sense. Sean, can you hit us with the fourth?
Yeah, the next question. It's a listener's question, and it's about Luminous, and we addressed it just a few minutes ago. We talked about it, but what makes Luminous lighting different from other lighting systems?
That's an interesting question. Well, I think one of the there's two things. One, we really thinking in long term, and we make everything that we use ourselves, or like I would say 80% of it. So we just think like, okay, what do we want to have in the future, and how should lighting look like and respond in the future, and what's the step that we can take right now to move towards that direction, which is more like a structural type of lighting. So there's less clutter in our lighting fixtures and in our lighting designs, and there's a really nice combination of usability, just functionality and look of the product, and we try to minimize the amount of parts, and that eventually makes it look more authentic and more real or more natural in a way, because it's just the light and not like 1,000 of parts that are necessary to carry that light, if that makes sense. So doing everything like that custom and thinking about every little detail and every little piece of software and part and programming and interaction, all of that is just thought out and made exactly the way we want it, and that's the difference. So we almost never take one piece of equipment and be like, okay, we're going to use it in a way that it's meant to be or something. we think, how do we want to use it, and then we find the product that can do that and use it in that specific way. And that's the difference between us and especially festival lighting companies, because festival lighting companies, like the normal rental companies or design companies, they just look at what's there and how can you use it instead of what should be.
I think that actually has quite an interesting link to the next question that was overwhelmingly popular on Instagram. Because you say that the regular companies that are just working with what already exists, and you take that extra step to let's make something that we want to make, and then, well, you could almost call it innovate. And then, well, the fifth question is, what is there more to innovate in lighting design? Like what? Well, we actually wanted to maybe deform that question a bit into something that we talked about previously before the episode. You mentioned that it sometimes felt like, yeah, I'm just making lights. Like, okay, cool, you make lights. Like, what is there more to bring with lights? Does that make sense?
Well, you could. It really depends on where you're going to use it for exactly. So I'm going to answer that in really related to, I think, music combined lighting, so show lighting for musical performances. And in that way, yeah, what's more to, like, okay, so how I would imagine a festival stage within 20 years. It's just you make a design on your laptop, and you open up a flight case, and there's like these little pieces that you can just stack together, or you can just put on a pile or whatever where you want to have them, and you click, you plug in a cable in your computer, you click enter, and the whole structure just rearranges itself until it is exactly the same design as you have on your laptop. And it just automatically like maps itself, so every part knows exactly where it is in the spatial environment. So you have direct control over it, and the cables are all integrated, and the communication is all integrated, and it probably also has a spread out intelligence. So right now the fixtures are mainly just stupid, and the computer is really smart. And I think it's way better to spread out that intelligence more within each fixture itself, and have a nice protocol for them to communicate with themselves, and to give the processing power where it's needed, and to have the computer way more decentralized in that system. I think that's a way nicer future way to think about festival stages. Also because cabling and everything right now is just such a mess, and it's a really boring part to innovate in, but it is the part that is most important to innovate in. Like, how can you do away with all the cabling? How can you just essentially make that obsolete, so you have that time and you have that all that material and clutter out of the way? And the structural part, like, now you have to make a structure before you can actually attach the lighting fixtures to them. And I think in the future we should have the structure integrated within the lighting fixtures, and to have like this method, this global method, or probably a number of methods. Like you have the tensegrity method, and you have the trusses method, or you have the brick method. Like, there's multiple ways to make a structure, and so essentially you just choose, like, this is the style that now fits my stage best, the type of construction style, and you just pick a system that suits you in that way. And I think that's where we really get to innovate. Like, how can we make all these protocols work best together, and how can we use the spread out intelligence within all of the fixtures and all of the devices in the best way? And yeah, how can we move towards that self-arranging, smart type of fixture, essentially?
It's actually you answered both of our last questions within this, because we were like wondering of how much what you do right now while you're designing these lamps, how much is digital and how much is physical.
Yeah, I would really give that a 50-50, or maybe a little bit more physical, like maybe like 55-60 physical, and then 40-45 digital. But a lot of it, like in terms of designing, is still physical, because it just has to go hand in hand. The electronics part, if you call that digital, and the structural part, and if the fixture itself is structurally not usable or functional, then you can make a great digital system, but then it's just still shit. Like, if you take the Contrarium project, I'm always really easy in that, because when I have to do a show, I can really stress out, like, okay, fuck, it has to be good, and the programming has to be perfect, and everything has to respond perfectly. But then I'm always like, well, the whole sculpture itself looks really impressive by itself. If the technology or the digital system isn't working perfectly, I just put on something that looks really nice, and then the crowd is also like, okay, this looks really nice, whatever. So, like, making it look beautiful and different than everything that you've seen before, because the Contrarium part, for example, it has strips that are like levitating or suspended on really thin steel cables that are just really neat to work with. So that gives it a really tight and floating feeling in the space, and there's no other fixture in the world that can do that in that exactly same way. So that just always saves the day, sort of say. That's just you've got a 50% advantage on that, and then the programming is just all extra.
I think we're running close up to time. There's one more question that has been selected, and that is, but I think it has been addressed already a lot overall over the entire episode, but what is the difference between designing a product and a light installation?
That's also a good question. I think the primary difference is that you're designing something that has to be used by a totally different type of person. Like a light installation, okay, this is a good example, I think. Our last intern, the intern that we had last year, he was from product design in Amsterdam, and he wanted to describe the target audience to his tutor at school. So he was like, well, you have the festival people, like the visitors, like the spectators, that's the end user. But then you also have the festival creative directors, so to say. So the people of the festival that get to decide what the festival is going to use and what's going to be there. That's one of the end users. But then you also have the people that install it. That's also the end users. So you have to work with all different kinds of end users that add different layers to this installation, and eventually it has to work for these end users, the spectators, and it also depends a lot on how the context is working around that light installation. So for the light installation to be good, everything has to be good. The context has to be good. The production has to be good. The programming, that's part of the light installation. But it's more than just having a really nice product. Like if you have a really beautiful TV but a shitty looking living room, it's still a really beautiful TV and you can watch movies on it pretty nice. Mm-hmm. But if you have a really nice light installation in a shitty context, then it's just a shit light installation, so to say. It just degrades the light installation so much. And so that's the difference. There's way more to really take into consideration in that specific part, like where are you going to place it and what are all the different people that are going to use it in different ways.
I think the example really clarified it for me there.
Yeah, it did.
Now it makes sense.
Yeah. Good.
I think on your website, Timo, I saw that you're always open for internships, right?
Yep.
Are you by any chance still looking for an intern on a specific topic?
Well, the thing is, if we find the right person with the right knowledge and the right motivation, then we're always interested and we're always wanting or willing to find a way to make it work. Just because there's not a lot of people that really have a little bit of before knowledge, like pre-knowledge on everything that we do. So yeah, people are really willing to go into this field and to learn more on top of what they already know. That's always interesting for us and we're always open for that. So if anybody feels interested, they can always just meet up and have a little chat and see if we can make it work out in a way.
That sounds familiar. I think that's how we met as well.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always open for conversations.
And then final thing, you're now doing the Contrarium show in LoFi in Amsterdam. Mm-hmm. Last Thursday you had the first one, or Saturday? When was it?
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It was 3 days in a row.
There's new ones coming up, right?
So we have a new one this Friday, but it's going to be private. And then from August 13th, we have a new series of performances coming up. So I really suggest either August 13th or August 30th. So 1-3 and 3-0. Yeah. Those two are going to be really great because 13th will be a lighting designer that we work with more often. And he's going to do a small residency in LoFi. So we will be there for 4 days making the music and programming it at the same time. And that will be one of the only shows that is pre-programmed in a way. But we chose to do that just because we want to give 100% for this to really make it visually and musically perfect. Because most 90% of the shows are all just improvised on the spot using technology, blah, 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 blah. But that one is going to be like the mixture of everything that we can do to make it like spot on and to really, really blow people's mind. So if you just if you just want eye candy and stuff, you should really come to that one.
I will probably be there the 30th. Gonna take a look.
Yeah.
The 30th is with Extrawelt, Dutch electronic artists, or Dutch German electronic artists. And they've been favorite of mine for a long time. So really enthusiastic to have those coming over. They're like geniuses when it comes to sound design. So that's going to be mental.
Do we need tickets or can we just walk in?
No, you need tickets, and you can find all of that on the Facebook page of LoFi Amsterdam. That's the easiest way to find where to get tickets and when all the shows are, and every information that you need, essentially.
All right. Well, in that case,
cool.
I'd like to round it off there. We will have a look at LoFi, LoFi, on Facebook and see if we can get the tickets for the 30th for an epic lighting show. Timo, thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you.
And thanks
it was a
pleasure. Indeed, I agree. Let's see. Everyone listening, thank you very much for listening. Thank you for sticking with us till the final episode of our first season. We haven't really mentioned it, but on Instagram we will need some more input from you, so you will have a lot of influence on how our second season is gonna look. And we got some epic plans, monthly episodes again. But above all, thanks for all the support. Leave a like, leave a comment, leave some feedback, whatever. Thank you very much. Have a great holidays, and hopefully we'll see you in season 2.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Keep in touch.
Thanks, Timo.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Mooi.
Whoa. Are you still listening? This episode is over. Go do something different. It's summer. You should go outside. It's nice weather. Or at least that's what I'm thinking. I'm in a basement right now editing this, and the boys won't let me out until it's perfectly fine. So for me, go outside, do something fun, and we'll see each other again in September.
Or not, you know. I mean, Brum made the assumption that we were going to let him out of the basement. But, I think I'm going to keep him down there a little longer.